The world of jazz has lost one of its most essential voices. Jack DeJohnette, a drummer whose rhythms shaped generations, passed away at the age of 83, leaving behind a silence more profound than any applause he had ever received. For decades, his presence on stage was more than just performance. It was a living heartbeat, a pulse that carried the energy of the genre itself. News of his death spread quickly, reaching every corner of the jazz world, leaving musicians, fans, and admirers grappling with the sudden absence of a man whose life had been devoted entirely to music. The loss felt monumental, not simply for the rhythms he created, but for the spirit he infused into every note, every improvisation, every quiet moment between beats. Jack DeJohnette was not merely a drummer. He was an architect of sound, a visionary who transformed the way jazz could feel, breathe, and speak. His death marked not just the passing of an artist, but the closing of a chapter in the history of music, a chapter rich with experimentation, friendship, and unyielding creativity. When news of his passing broke, the world of jazz paused. Fans and colleagues alike reflected on the enormity of his contributions. His funeral became an event that transcended the boundaries of music. It was not simply a farewell. It was a celebration of a life so deeply intertwined with sound that even silence seemed filled with meaning. At the service, Herbie Hancock, a longtime collaborator and friend, appeared unexpectedly to perform. His presence brought an atmosphere of awe and reverence, reminding everyone of the bond shared over decades of experimentation and shared musical vision. Cameras captured every moment, and the story quickly went global. Jack DeJohnette's funeral became more than a memorial. It became a historic moment in the narrative of jazz, a gathering of emotions, talent, and remembrance that reflected the profound impact he had on the musical world. Those who knew him described the scene as surreal, a space where grief and music intertwined, where the rhythms of memory and life echoed louder than any drum. In the years leading up to his passing, Jack had faced significant health challenges. Diagnosed with congestive heart failure in early 2023, he was forced to pause all performance plans and retreat from the public eye. After decades of touring and performing in every imaginable venue, from smoky jazz clubs to grand concert halls, he returned to his home in Kingston, New York, seeking treatment and comfort among his family. Despite the limitations imposed by his health, Jack continued to embody the serenity and grace of someone who had fully realized his artistic journey. Friends and family observed that he remained deeply committed to his routines: daily meditation, strict vegetarianism, and hours spent composing in the small, intimate studio he had cultivated over decades. That studio was more than a workspace. It was a sanctuary where generations of jazz artists had experimented, learned, and absorbed the essence of his musical philosophy. Even in illness, Jack maintained his identity as a musician, an artist whose creativity transcended the physical limitations of his body. As his health declined, Jack's artistry did not waver. It transformed. Recognizing that drumming had become physically taxing, he shifted his focus toward piano. This transition allowed him to continue exploring sound, to translate his rhythmic intuition into harmonic expression. Though many marveled at his mastery of multiple instruments, Jack himself dismissed labels or boundaries. He did not see himself merely as a drummer, pianist, or bassist. He saw himself as an artist, a conduit for music's infinite possibilities. In his own words, his creative vision was phenomenal, unbounded by traditional notions of discipline or technique. Classical music, jazz improvisation, and experimental composition became threads in a tapestry he continued to weave with unerring precision. In his home studio, he spent long hours reimagining familiar sounds and creating new ones, proving that even as his body slowed, his mind remained a powerful engine of artistic invention. In 2024, Jack released Dream Telepathy, a collaborative project with Danilo Perez and John Patitucci that showcased a different facet of his artistry. The album reflected a more reflective, restrained Jack, one who used sound not simply to demonstrate technical mastery, but to tell stories. In interviews, he described each piece as a dialogue with himself, a space where music replaced the limitations of his body. "When my body was weak," he said, "I just replaced the drum beat with a heartbeat." Dream Telepathy revealed a profound understanding of music as narrative, a medium for reflection and connection rather than performance alone. Alongside these projects, Jack dedicated himself to nurturing the next generation of musicians. Through online jam sessions, he guided young artists, offering not only technical instruction but philosophical insight. His mentorship emphasized listening, empathy, and the capacity to perceive sound beyond conventional limits. "Age is no limit to creativity," he remarked in an interview with Jazz Times. "The limit is only in how we perceive sound." These sessions, later referred to by students as classrooms of silence, became a testament to Jack's enduring commitment to the growth of jazz as an art form. In the early months of 2025, Jack completed the Unity Project, a final album embodying the themes of healing, connection, and gratitude that had defined his later years. The project reflected his desire to offer a gift to the audience that had followed him throughout his career, an expression of appreciation in musical form. Collaborators, including Herbie Hancock, visited Jack's Kingston studio to record and experiment together. Despite his poor health, Jack remained deeply engaged, shaping the music with his improvisational sensibilities and allowing collaborators the freedom to transform melodies spontaneously. Herbie Hancock described this process as transformative, noting that Jack made music feel like breathing. The Unity Project captured the essence of his late artistry, a blending of rustic harmonies, emotional depth, and a profound understanding of connection, all infused with the quiet dignity of a man who had spent a lifetime exploring the possibilities of sound. Jack's final public performance came in July 2025 at the Newport Jazz Festival. Seated at the piano with Herbie Hancock beside him, he engaged in a brief but unforgettable duet that lasted only 10 minutes. Yet in those moments, the audience witnessed the culmination of decades-long collaboration, a meeting of two creative souls whose interplay had defined modern jazz for generations. The performance was spontaneous, delicate, and powerful, a perfect encapsulation of Jack's philosophy: music as a living conversation rather than a fixed composition. After Newport, he returned home to Kingston, dedicating his remaining months to composing quietly and spending time with family. On October 26, 2025, the news of his passing was confirmed. The family's statement was simple yet poignant. Jack passed away peacefully, surrounded by music and the people he loved. Tributes poured in from colleagues and admirers, including Keith Jarrett, who reflected, "He taught me that every drum beat contains a human soul," and Herbie Hancock, who said simply, "Jack didn't just drum, he breathed life into time." Jack's life and career were defined not only by his individual brilliance but by his enduring partnership with Herbie Hancock. Their collaboration began in the early 1970s when Herbie sought a drummer capable of pushing musical boundaries. Jack, already a master of fusion music, brought a dynamic and unpredictable rhythm that immediately captivated Herbie. Together, they opened a new era of experimental and free jazz, beginning with the Headhunters Tour in 1973. Over decades, their relationship evolved into a rare artistic symbiosis. Herbie once said, "When Jack plays the drums, I feel like I'm talking with sound." Their interactions were spontaneous, natural, and built on mutual understanding rather than rigid structure. The 1990 Parallel Realities project, featuring Pat Metheny and Dave Holland, became a landmark demonstration of their synergy, blending jazz, funk, and world music into an unprecedented flow. Jack acted as the soul keeper, Herbie as the melodic guide, creating music that was both exploratory and harmonious. As both artists entered their 70s, their collaboration transformed from performance-driven projects to spiritual and philosophical exchanges. The emphasis shifted from public shows to intimate recordings and discussions about music, creativity, and life. In 2024, they recorded Heart Echoes, a solo improvisation that captured the essence of their decades-long partnership. In this project, Jack's drums and Herbie's piano conversed like old friends, voices intertwined by time, experience, and mutual respect. Later, during the Jack DeJohnette Memorial in November 2025, Herbie performed Heart Echoes for a packed audience. Observers described the performance as a final conversation between two souls who had reshaped the landscape of jazz. More than a tribute, the piece was a continuation, a testament to the enduring connection between two artists whose lives were inseparable from their music. Throughout his career, Jack emphasized the power of music as an emotional and spiritual expression rather than a mere technical exercise. He believed in the freedom to explore, the necessity of improvisation, and the importance of genuine human connection within music. This philosophy guided his collaborations, his mentorship, and his solo work, leaving an indelible mark on everyone he touched. In each performance, he allowed space for spontaneity, creating an environment where melody and rhythm could breathe freely. Herbie Hancock frequently reiterated that Jack's drumming did not merely keep time, it created space, allowed music to expand, and gave life to the sounds around him. Their partnership demonstrated that music was not a solitary endeavor, but a shared experience, a dialogue between souls rather than instruments. Even after his passing, Jack's influence continued to reverberate through the jazz community. Herbie Hancock maintained the habit of revisiting the compositions they had created together, ensuring that Jack's legacy remained alive in every note. Students, collaborators, and fans alike came to understand the full scope of Jack DeJohnette's contribution, a lifetime of dedication, curiosity, and the fearless pursuit of creative freedom. From the heights of performance to the quiet solitude of his studio, Jack embodied a philosophy of music as living art, an ever-changing dialogue that extended beyond technique, beyond form, and beyond life itself. Jack DeJohnette's journey was one of continuous evolution. He redefined rhythm, harmony, and improvisation, leaving a body of work that spans decades and touches countless lives. His collaborations, particularly with Herbie Hancock, showcased a rare synergy built on trust, respect, and shared vision. His later projects, such as Dream Telepathy and Unity, reflected a mind constantly in motion, even in the face of illness, exploring new ways to communicate through sound. Above all, Jack's life exemplified the power of music to connect, heal, and inspire. Every drumbeat, every note, every pause carried with it the weight of human experience, empathy, and artistry. In Jack DeJohnette, the world did not simply lose a musician, it lost a guide, a philosopher, and a friend who had devoted his life to exploring the infinite possibilities of sound. In the final analysis, Jack's legacy is not defined by awards, reviews, or accolades, but by the enduring impact of his art and the relationships he nurtured. From his groundbreaking collaborations to his quiet mentoring of young artists, Jack's influence extended far beyond the stage. He reminded the world that music is a dialogue, an act of listening, a living conversation between human hearts. His improvisations were lessons in presence, patience, and imagination. His philosophy, that sound must be real, emotional, and connected to life, resonates not just in recordings but in the hearts of every musician who had the privilege of encountering his work. In his passing, we are left with silence, but it is a silence filled with meaning, a pause that echoes with every heartbeat he ever played. Jack DeJohnette did not merely create music. He breathed life into it, and through it, he will continue to speak to generations yet to come. Jack DeJohnette's influence on contemporary jazz is immeasurable. From young drummers discovering the intricate subtleties of his rhythm, to seasoned pianists embracing his approach to harmony, his fingerprints are everywhere. His style was never about dominance or virtuosity for its own sake. It was about conversation, fluidity, and adaptability. In modern ensembles, one can hear echoes of his approach. The way drums interact with piano, bass, or voice as an equal partner, rather than a background instrument. Jack's influence transcended technical mastery. It was philosophical. He taught musicians to listen deeply, to respond intuitively, and to trust the unfolding of musical ideas. Festivals, workshops, and academic courses now cite his work as essential study, analyzing the nuances of albums like Parallel Realities and Headhunters. In interviews, contemporary jazz artists often describe their discovery of Jack as a revelation, a moment where music became more than sound. It became dialogue, memory, and emotion. Even in the later years of his life, when travel and performance were no longer feasible, Jack continued to nurture the next generation of artists. Through online jam sessions, he mentored countless musicians worldwide. He taught not only technique but also philosophy, how to understand space, silence, and the emotional resonance of each note. Students described these sessions as classrooms of silence, where Jack would sometimes play a few notes, leave pauses, and then guide them with reflective questions. Music is a living conversation, he would say. It's not about being loud or fast, it's about honesty, connection, and presence. These sessions became a digital archive of his wisdom, allowing his influence to reach corners of the world he could never physically visit. Many of these young artists later credited him with shaping their careers, noting that his guidance helped them approach music with confidence, humility, and creative fearlessness. Jack DeJohnette's approach to music was revolutionary. His drumming was fluid, unbound by conventional timekeeping. He treated rhythm as a living organism, allowing it to breathe and shift in dialogue with other instruments. His use of polyrhythms, subtle syncopation, and textural dynamics gave every performance a unique character. When he transitioned to piano, his drumming sensibilities influenced his harmonic and melodic choices. Improvisation was never about speed or complexity. It was about creating emotional landscapes, telling stories, and connecting with the audience. Albums like Dream Telepathy and Unity reveal his deep understanding of space, resonance, and tension. Critics often noted that Jack's music had a conversational quality. It listened as much as it spoke. This philosophy, rooted in collaboration, spontaneity, and emotion, became a defining feature of modern jazz, inspiring countless musicians to reimagine the possibilities of rhythm and sound. Even after his passing, Jack's creative spirit continued to speak through unreleased recordings and projects completed by collaborators. The Unity project was just the beginning. Family and close colleagues confirmed that multiple works were in various stages of completion. These recordings offer listeners a window into Jack's later philosophy: music as meditation, as connection, and as a bridge between generations. Archivists and producers carefully curated these works, ensuring that each piece reflected his vision and emotional intent. Fans around the world eagerly anticipate these posthumous releases, knowing that every note carries the weight of decades of innovation, passion, and wisdom. In this way, Jack's music continues to evolve, offering new lessons and inspiration long after his final performance. Jack DeJohnette's death resonated far beyond jazz circles. Tributes poured in from musicians, critics, and fans across the globe. From New York to Tokyo, Paris to Cape Town, communities celebrated his life with performances, retrospectives, and documentaries. Cultural institutions honored him not just as a musician, but as a visionary who reshaped the understanding of rhythm and improvisation. Streets, festivals, and concert halls echoed with his legacy, and countless younger musicians dedicated albums, compositions, and performances to his memory. Jack's story became emblematic of the power of music to transcend boundaries, cultures, and generations. Through his recordings, collaborations, and mentorship, he ensured that his voice, and the lessons he imparted, would remain alive for decades to come. While Jack DeJohnette was a global musical figure, those closest to him knew a side rarely seen on stage or in recordings. At home in Kingston, New York, he was a devoted family man, cherishing the quiet rhythms of daily life as much as the explosive improvisations of a jazz performance. Family members often spoke of his gentle humor, his patience, and the way he listened, not just to music but to the people around him. Even during his later years, when health challenges limited his mobility, Jack made sure to spend meaningful time with loved ones, sharing stories, meals, and moments of reflection. These personal experiences often fed into his music, lending it a warmth, depth, and humanity that resonated with listeners worldwide. It was in these intimate moments, composing at the kitchen table, practicing quietly in his home studio, or simply enjoying a laugh with family, that Jack's humanity shone most clearly, reminding the world that behind the legend was a man who valued connection above all else. Jack DeJohnette's approach to music extended far beyond notes and rhythms. It was a philosophy, a way of perceiving the world. He believed that sound itself carried meaning, and that the role of a musician was to interpret life through it. Music is not just a performance, he once said. It is an act of listening, feeling, and responding. His improvisations were conversations, and he often described drumming as a way to articulate what words could not capture. Even in his later years, when he shifted to piano, this philosophy remained central. Every chord, every pause, every heartbeat-like rhythm in his compositions was a reflection of this deep understanding. For Jack, the greatest challenge was not technical mastery, but the ability to remain authentic, vulnerable, and fully present in each moment of creation. It was this dedication to truth and sound that inspired countless students and collaborators to rethink the very purpose of music. While his partnership with Herbie Hancock was legendary, Jack DeJohnette's musical journey involved collaborations with a wide array of artists who shaped the landscape of modern jazz. He worked with Keith Jarrett, Pat Metheny, John Patitucci, and countless others, always bringing a unique voice to every project. In these collaborations, Jack's role was rarely that of a follower. He elevated each session with creativity, intuition, and a fearless willingness to explore uncharted musical territory. Albums like Parallel Realities and Dream Telepathy exemplify his collaborative spirit, blending improvisation with structure, tradition with innovation. Critics often noted that Jack's presence in any ensemble transformed the music itself, pushing fellow musicians to new heights and redefining the boundaries of jazz as a genre. His collaborations were not just professional relationships. They were conversations, experiments, and journeys shared with others who respected his vision and trusted his instincts. Though Jack DeJohnette's true legacy was felt in the music itself, his extraordinary contributions did not go unnoticed. Over his decades-long career, he received numerous awards recognizing his innovation, artistry, and influence. Jazz magazine's critics and international organizations celebrated him for his technical mastery, his pioneering work in jazz fusion, and his unique ability to blend tradition with experimentation. Yet Jack was never motivated by recognition. He considered awards secondary to the joy of creation, the process of exploration, and the connections forged with audiences and fellow musicians. For him, the true reward lay in the moments of spontaneous brilliance on stage or in the studio, the moments where music became something larger than life, a shared experience of emotion and imagination.